When it comes to Nintendo sending their legal assassins, they don't mess around. There are times where people feel it's unjustified, like when fans are expressing their passion through fan projects that Nintendo, copyright strikes or take down through legal means. And then there are other situations where, you've got pirates who are profiting from their work, and so Nintendo does have legal grounds to take them to court and to have them arrested and go through the whole prosecution process. And this is one of those cases where we're looking at the latter scenario. So back in 2020, you may recall, or if you kept track of the story, that there was this piracy team called Team Executor, whose various members were arrested by the Department of Justice. Team Executioner is a criminal enterprise that profits from pirating video game technology. Now, the key word here is profiting. It's one thing to hack a device and to share that knowledge. It's another thing to take that knowledge and use another company's product to make a profit for yourself by distributing these devices or hacks that could damage the company. If you're making money by damaging another company, then obviously that's, you put your...
It's not good to do that. You can't let people do that. Obviously you can't do that.
Yourself in a situation where legally you can absolutely be pursued, and that's kind of how Team Executor operated. Team Executor is widely known for creating hacks that bypass digital restrictions on Nintendo consoles. Two members of Team Executor were arrested recently. Max Loarn, a 48-year-old French national, and the 51-year-old Gary Bowser from Canada are in custody and charged in a criminal...
How is it that the fucking guy that Nintendo's suing, his last name is Bowser? Holy fuck. How is this even possible? Yeah, it's what are the fucking odds, man? That they're suing Bowser. What the fuck? Turn down the volume. Is the volume bad? I don't like having volume Andes because everybody has a different volume that they want it to be. So it's going to be turned down slightly. Anybody else that complains, just ban them.
This video will focus on Gary Bowser. And yes, this is not a joke. Bowser was arrested as a result of Nintendo's legal pursuits. Yeah, the irony is certainly palpable. And then there's this Chinese man named Yuaning Chen, 35, who still remained at large as of the publishing of this article back in 2000.
See, you should have been in fucking China doing this shit. I don't know what the hell you're thinking doing this kind of stuff whenever you're in a country that can extradite to that place. You got to be doing this in a third world country that they can't do anything to you in. You can't be doing this shit in Canada, man. You got to think about this.
20. But today, again, we're going to focus on Gary Bowser. There's an update on the kind of repercussions that he's facing, lifelong repercussions. But for further details about this arrest, the three indicted members are just a minority. There are more than a dozen Team Executioner members scattered around the world. These members help to code and create the Nintendo hacks, but they're also suspected of being involved in the production and sale of these devices. Again, that's where they open
I think that's I don't really give a fuck if somebody's pirating a video game. Who gives a fuck? Obviously you can't have everybody pirating the video game, because if everybody does it, then they're not going to make any money with the game, and they can't make the game. It's one of these things. However, if you are selling the stuff that you're pirating, I think this is a little bit bad. Because it's the reason why I think pirating is basically okay is because some people might not have the money for it, or they might not be able to, afford it or access it for whatever reason. But whenever you're just doing it to sell it to somebody else, I think that's kind of fucking shady. It's not a lost sale. Yeah, this is a direct lost sale in a different way. Then stealing is okay too? Well, no, because stealing, there's scarcity with physical products where there's not scarcity with a digital product. It's just not how they work. It's just not. It's completely different.
themselves to criminal charges and prosecution. Nintendo is legally allowed to pursue this particular case. And it is said right here by the Assistant Attorney General Brian C. Rabbit that this organization reaped illegal profits for years by pirating video game technology of U.S. companies. At the time of writing, it says right here, the official Team Executioner website remains online, and Bowser also operated this website called maxconsole.com. But if you go to those websites right now, you'll get the following message: this domain has been seized by these government entities. Now, Team Executor has tried to justify their actions by stating that we are firm believers of the right to repair legislation, a growing movement to counteract the monopolistic control over hardware, which is the property of the consumer who paid for it in the first place. Again, there's a difference between hacking your own device and then profiting off of another company's product through those hacks. So this is where I don't think Team Executor has a case to make, because they were profiting from this rather than, doing like a community service, if you will, of like sharing knowledge. So that's what we...
I don't think anybody would complain if they, like, for example, there are games that effectively get abandoned, and the only way you can play them is through a third-party website or some sort of emulator. Nobody is really going to care if you're providing those games. But I think that whenever you start doing it for money, and you're doing it for games that are already being provided, that's what the issue is. Yeah, it's like Nostalrius or something like that. Well, there's no other way to play Classic WoW. So people had this game and that server, and they played on the server, and it is what it is. But whenever you're just trying to get people to play the new Mario and not have to pay for it, it's like, you can dislike Nintendo all you want, but I've never been an advocate of this idea where once a company reaches an arbitrary size, it becomes morally acceptable to steal from them. I fucking hate this.
You back in October of 2020, but fast forward to April of 2023, and Gary Bowser, who was arrested and imprisoned, has been released from federal prison, but not without consequences that will most likely follow him literally for the rest of his life. But you know what's a good thing to have follow you for the rest of your life? Learning a new language. Il che ci porta allo sponsor del video di oggi, Babbel, which is Italian for this brings us to the sponsor of today's video,
that was
Babbel,
Spanish.
a platform dedicated to helping you master new languages. Babbel is one of the top language apps in the world with lessons designed by real language teachers. Over 10 million people have subscribed to begin their linguistic journey, and having used the app myself, I can see why so many people are drawn to it. I've always been interested in expanding my repertoire of languages, especially as a professional actor and voiceover artist, and being fluent in English.
I wonder if, like, in fucking Italy, they have people that do ads so you can download an app and you can learn American. I wonder if that's how they do it over there. I've no idea.
Spanish, and conversational Korean, I thought this would be a great opportunity to branch off into languages like Italian. Having done some Italian lessons through Babbel, I was impressed by how comprehensive Babbel is, covering listening comprehension, reading, spelling, and speaking.
Piacere, io mi chiamo Andrea.
Piacere, io mi chiamo Andrea.
Okay.
Varying activities and quizzes in intuitive and engaging ways that constantly encourage your brain to memorize, make connections, and be aware of not just
This is a smart way of doing it seems. This is a good idea.
Words, sentences, and conversations, but the real-world situations in which they'll be used. Whether it's for travel, for work, for relationships, or just for self-improvement, it's never too late to learn a new language or brush up.
I wonder how long it's going to be until they could put, like, a chip in your fucking head where, like, you can talk to somebody who's speaking Japanese and the chip will tell you what they're saying in, like, American. Like, I want, like 5 years, yeah, right. That'd be good. Like, I wonder if like 2 years after that, you could do that to like a cat, right? And so they could fucking make a neural network of a cat, and then you could be able to, like, a cat would meow, and it's like the cat saying, like, oh my god, the cat's saying I have a small dick again. Oh my god. You know, like, I don't know. I think it could happen
on a language and expand your versatility. And you can get started by clicking on the link in the description box below to get 60% off your Babbel subscription with a 20-day money-back guarantee. All right, let's go back to talking about Gary Bowser, who made headlines after his recent release. But it's not just the release that is drawing eyes to this particular story. It's the lifelong sentence that Nintendo has persecuted this man too. Additional details indicate that this is a team that made millions of dollars through its operation, with Bowser having been sort of a smaller part in this team, but still a significant enough role that it warranted his arrest. When Bowser was with this organization, he did profit by earning a salary of roughly $500 to $1,000 a month, his attorneys previously said. And when he was in court, he straight up admitted guilt. He didn't deny his involvement. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 40 months in prison for his role in the criminal enterprise. Now, this is significantly lower than the suggested 5-year prison term that the government had requested, and he actually was released early from that 40-month sentence because of good behavior. When the attorney put a request in for Gary Bowser to be released early, his exact date of release was actually last month on March 28th, 2023. Now, why do I say that this is still ultimately a lifelong sentence? Well, that's because Gary Bowser still owes Nintendo reparations in the millions of dollars, as reported here by Torrent Freak based on information that Gary Bowser shared in an interview with Nick Moses. So this is the terms of agreement that Bowser relayed to the public. The agreement with Nintendo is that the maximum they can take is 25 to 30% of your gross monthly income, and I have up to 6 months before I have to start making payments. These are monthly payments that will contribute to the restitution that the court has made Bowser pay, a grand total of $14.5 million. It is this huge debt, essentially, that Bowser owes to Nintendo, and at the very minimum, he has to pay 25 to 30% of his...
I wonder, how do they get $14.5 million? That's a lot of fucking money.
Gross monthly income to the company. If you can somehow find a way to accrue this kind of money in bulk, obviously you can pay this off however he wants. But
I mean, here's the thing, right? It's like, I live in America. And so, like, the idea, oh, wow, this person's saddled with a debt they can never pay, and they're paying, I think it said $175 in total over the past year towards their $10 million debt. Yeah, that's about, like, 1/3 of all college kids for the rest of their life here. Yeah, it's like, oh, so this is your lifelong debt? Oh, okay, yeah, mine was for trying to get a degree. Yeah, I work at Starbucks now. Yeah, it was philosophy. You too? Yeah, for sure.
Certainly no easy task. He did have a job in prison that paid him pretty meagerly. I've been making payments of $25 per month. There's also information that Bowser relayed through his interview with Nick Moses, which they have been taking from my income because I had a job in federal prison. So far, I paid $175. Even if after all of this, Gary Bowser manages to find a decent paying job, it is highly unlikely that he'll be able to make $14.5 million. Very few people in the entire world make $14 million in their entire lifetime. Yeah. And keep in mind that Gary Bowser is not a young man. At the time of Gary Bowser's arrest and indictment back in 2020, he was 51 years old. Even less people make $14 million starting in their 50s, you know? He is now likely around 54 years old. He doesn't have a lot of time to make a whopping $14.5 million. Even if he manages to build his life back up and earn a decent wage, 25 to 30% of that will come out as a tax to Nintendo for the crimes that he committed. As Torrent Freak aptly put it, at that rate, it is unlikely that Nintendo will ever see the full amount, or to put it differently, Bowser will carry the financial consequences of his team executor involvement for the rest of his life. That's what I mean by a lifelong sentence. Yes, he's out of prison and he's free to go out and about and do whatever.
Maybe what he should do is he should try to jailbreak PlayStations to make the money back, to pay back Nintendo.
Any money that he makes, a significant portion of that will be going to Nintendo. And I don't think Nintendo actually expects to see a full restitution of $14.5 million in his lifespan. For Nintendo, this is about sending a message. It's about telling hackers, hey, you do this, and this is what can happen to you. We will make sure that we haunt you for the rest of your life and take a portion of your money.
I mean, all right. I haven't really given much of an opinion about this. I guess I'll say right now, like, Nintendo didn't do this. The government did. A judge ordered this. It's not Nintendo that did this. They didn't just tell him, hey, you have to give us this money. The government made him do this. So if you're not happy with this, you think this is bad, it's the fucking government that did it. Nintendo can't do shit. Nintendo can't say you owe us anything. Nintendo pursued it. Yeah, of course they pursued it. No shit, they pursued it. The judge, the dude breaking the law did. Well, what I'm saying is that I think that there is a conversation to be had about, realistically, is this best for society that you saddle a person with 20 to 30% of their wages garnished for realistically the rest of their life? Is this something that's good for, like, who is this good for? There's a big one. Yeah, I get, yeah, fuck them. But at the same time, I just, it does not seem proportional. Yeah, it's a bit much. I think it's a bit much. Now, I don't know if there's a lot of ways for people to get around this kind of stuff, and you can, like, there's like Chapter 7, Chapter 13 bankruptcy here in the U.S. You can clear a lot of debts. Ironically, one of the only debts you can't clear is student loans. So maybe he can do that. I'm not sure. I have no idea. But, like, the system is clearly, you probably appeal it later on. Yeah, exactly. And, like, what happens if he doesn't pay this? Like, I have no idea. It's too much. Is it too much power for a corporation over an individual's life? Well, it's not about it being a corporation. It's about, is giving somebody effectively a scarlet letter or making somebody carry, like, wear ankle weights for the rest of their life. Is this a, what's the best way to say this? Is this an outcome of a just society and a just system, or a vengeful system? And I think in general, this is punishing people for doing bad things. I don't think should be the goal of almost all types of, what do you call it? All types of, like, legal processes. It's just, it's not productive. It's not useful. However, there are a lot of people who, like, fucking, dude, whenever they used to do lynchings, people would show up. They'd bring their fucking kids. Before that, whenever they used to do public witch burnings, everybody was there. People love watching this shit. And they've always loved it. And they always will. It's blood sport. Yeah, look at the fucking Coliseum. So, yeah, I mean, stoning them, yeah. And it's just, the problem is, like, I mean, the government is, what the point is that the government is a reflection of its people. I think that in to some degree, at least, not entirely, but to some degree. So a lot of people like seeing somebody punished. Like, they want to see them punished. It's not about, fixing society. It's not about rehabilitating. It's not about solving the problem. It's about punishing this person. Is that healthy? I think in most cases it's not. I don't think so. It's not productive, and also it's very subjective. Because, like, one person's punishment isn't the same as somebody else's. So, like, you never really have a, like, a fair line to draw. Whereas if you're looking, like, how can you rehabilitate somebody and, make this better, you can use more, like, objective analysis for that. So it's a bad idea, I think, on an ethical level, and I think it's also a bad idea on a functional level too. So yeah, they're making an example out of him. Yeah, I understand that, and he shouldn't have done it. It's bad. But, like, I'm saying, like, people that go out and they do this, or, they have something like this happen to them. What's stopping a person like this from just going on a shooting rampage? Well, they're probably 20 to 30% more likely to do it, I guess. Because if you tell somebody your life has no hope and you will never have, any semblance of success, comfort, happiness, or anything like that in the rest of your life, Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you lash back out at society for doing this to you? Even if you deserved it. Because it's fucking crazy? Well, who cares? Morality? Well, what's the like you look at it from their perspective. What's the morality to him that he was making some mod and now he has to pay for this thing for the rest of his life because they want to make an example of him? Like, look at it from his, like, obviously you can reason out, like, if you never, that's insane to be honest. No, it's not. What about what I'm saying is insane? I don't think it's insane at all. Absolutely not. Yeah, like this is, yeah, trauma bonding makes people do things beyond the scope of sane. Yeah, people do this shit all the time. It's not insane. It's normal for Americans. So I don't know what happens in other countries. I don't really care. But I'm saying over here, I mean, fuck, you don't need a gun. You could do it with a car. So, yeah, it says that people usually do extremes like unraveling. Absolutely. It's like you're justifying it. Oh, that's just, if you think, what do you, shut up, you pussy. Shut up, stop being a little bitch. Why are you being a bitch? Stop being a bitch. Oh, God. Stop. Anyway, the point is that putting somebody in a situation where their life is effectively ruined and they know it is probably not healthy for society. I am very torn on this issue. I don't entirely know what the right option here is. I have no idea. Probably somewhere in the middle. I do think this is a little bit exorbitant. Because effectively, then don't steal. Well, why not just shoot everybody who steals? Why not just, if somebody's stealing out of a grocery store, just take them out in front of the grocery store and shoot them in the head? Problem solved. Done. A lot less thieves. You don't have to pay for the fucking the jail. You don't have to pay for people to watch them. You don't have to give them food. You just shoot them, they're dead. Why not just do that then? Yeah, I don't understand. Because obviously you don't think that's a good idea. Probably not, right? I mean, there's some places that do things. I don't know how they are with thievery, but it's probably a bit lower. However, is that a world you want to live in? I don't know. But the point is that I understand that, like, it's very easy to say, oh, well, you know, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Of course it's easy to say that. But why is that the time? Why is the government operating as an apparatus to punish somebody disproportionately? How is this a government that serves its people? You see what I'm saying? But he made millions. The number that I saw, the highest estimate was 300 to 500,000, and it was a multi-person operation. He probably did not make millions. That's all right. Oh shit, yo, what up, boys? Hey, yo, what up? How y'all doing? Sounding someone with millions of debt is such an increase in quality of life. It's effectively a death sentence on a long enough timeline. Yeah, I think so. The punishment should be proportional to the crime. And that's the point that I'm making, right? Is that it's very easy to say that, oh, well, let small things slide, it becomes the norm. It's just the way humans work. Well, then, okay, well, if somebody, like, for example, for drunk driving, if somebody is caught drunk driving, pull them out of the car. If they test positive above the alcohol level, the cop shoots them in the head. Problem solved. There you go. If that's the outlook you want to have on it, it's lazy. It's not a good idea. There's a lot of people that probably agree with it, right? I mean, let's be real. A lot of people probably fucking agree with this. But the truth is that you don't want to live in a world that solves problems that way. At least most people. I don't want to. I don't. I find it to be a foundationally bad idea.
Rest of your life. Man, that's talk about a really, really harsh punishment.
Yeah.
Now, look, on one hand, I do think Nintendo had every reason to criminally pursue this organization because they were profiting significantly from this venture.
Nintendo's totally in the right here. Nintendo is completely in the right suing this guy. They're completely in the right seeking restitution from him. It is the government that is making him pay this money. Nintendo's not making him pay this money. The government is. If he doesn't make this payment, Nintendo doesn't send agents. He doesn't send Mario and Luigi over to Bowser's castle to jump on him a few times or to throw him into off the fucking platform. No, the government sends people to enforce it on behalf of Nintendo. Nintendo didn't do anything wrong here. The government did.
Bowser not as much, but the organization as a whole making millions off of Nintendo products by hacking Nintendo products and by selling these hacks and hardware devices. This is profit that does come at the expense of Nintendo's potential.
Like, of course, and by the way, of course Nintendo is going to seek something that is disproportionate. You should always expect a person or a group of people, an entity, to act in its best interest. Of course they're going to try to set an example out of this person. They are doing what is best for them. And it is up to the government and the courts and the fucking apparatus that decides justice to figure out where in the middle you meet with those two things. How do you make it fair for them? And how do you make it fair for the person who stole the shit? You see what I'm saying? Because the government has the fucking power. Nintendo's not going to come to his house and take his fucking money. They're not going to take it out of his bank account. There's nobody with a gun that is a Nintendo employee that's going to come and arrest this guy if he doesn't make the payments. It's the government. Because Nintendo can't do shit. The government can. They are God in this situation. Nintendo is just simply asking for something. The government is the one that gives it power.
Profitability, because these hacks do facilitate piracy, and when you're profiting off of piracy, that's when, like, legally speaking, yeah, it's open season for corporations, and Nintendo does not mess around when it comes to these things. On the other hand, do I think the punishment fits the crime?
No,
I don't think so. I think Gary Bowser is being made to be the scapegoat to again send that message to let all the hackers out there know, hey, we're going to come after you and we're going to make the rest of your life miserable. But it's like there are plenty of worse crimes out there that get punished less severely. This guy did not engage in crimes against humanity. It's like there are points where we cross a line where the punishment is less humane than the crime committed, you know? Like, totally, this guy should be fined and, you know, he should go through the whole criminal prosecution process. But damn, this seems excessive, and I think it goes to highlight just how messed up and unbalanced the criminal system can be. People who commit some of the worst...
Yeah, I mean, of course this is true. Let's see here. Juries have nullification of power. Juries can nullify any charges. It's democratic decision. While a jury is a good idea, and I think it's great, I don't necessarily agree with every jury decision. And a jury is is 12 random people or something like that. You ever gone out and found 12 random people? Huh. I wouldn't bet on it. You know, let's just say that. The jury didn't make the law that allowed this. Yeah, I mean, again, they didn't make the law. And again, also, like, the jury probably just simply... I don't know how all of this happened. But I do think that Young is 100% fucking right. There are people that are actually committing crimes that hurt other people. This is a cyber crime. It is not good. Of course it should be punished. But this does not directly endanger lives. It seems disproportionate that a crime that does not directly endanger lives is being met with effectively a life sentence to poverty.
Crimes can get away with a slap in the wrist. Whereas people like Bowser, who, yes, like hurt a corporation, but that corporation is still making billions and billions of dollars and are still, you know, like they'll be fine, get to suffer a lifelong punishment that will see them financially crippled for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But look, at the end of the day, unfortunately, these kinds of deliberations can happen. So at the end of the day, what you don't want to do...
Yeah, juries make bad decisions all the time. Like, I think that was, like, one of the main premises with To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Like, I don't know. I had to read the book twice in school. I didn't read it either time. But, like, that's what I kind of remember. So, I'm not going to put this as, like, a fucking... like, there are a lot of systems that are the best system that you can have, but they're still not good systems.
Is risk it like this. You don't want to profit off of emulation, hacking, you name it. Like, it's one thing to put that stuff out there for game preservation purposes, and, you know, emulation has its benefits of being able to essentially enhance your gameplay experience, because you can, you know, take a 30 FPS game on Switch and make it 60 FPS and upscale the resolution and make it look better. And, you know, there's utility behind emulation that isn't just all about, like, piracy and stuff. But that has to be sort of very much a community service kind of thing, where you're not profiting, but rather just sharing that knowledge out there. So that
I actually don't think it's very gray. I think that if the products that you're providing are a market replacement for what is available publicly and commercially from the company that you are providing the products to replace, it's bad. It's that simple. Like, I don't see how this is so complicated. It really seems very simple to me.
People can individually choose whether they want to partake.
Somebody says, what if they don't make the product anymore? Well, then it's not a market replacement, is it? Think about think about what I said.
In this kind of activity for themselves, for their own purposes, use the product that they bought however they want, but without profiting off of Nintendo's products and Nintendo's work, and damaging the company along the way while making money. Like, that's where it can become very much a case of clear-cut theft and piracy. This guy is suffering the consequences of his own actions, and, like, this is all completely on him. But at the same time, good lord, is this really the kind of punishment that this guy...
I don't really entirely... Like, he is, yes, and if he didn't commit the crime... And also, like, let's keep in mind, he went into... This is not like an 18-year-old that got caught for smoking a joint, okay? Like, and he didn't know what he was doing. He was in with the wrong crowd or something like that. No, this is a fucking 50-year-old man. He knows exactly what he's doing. He went into it knowing he's committing a crime. He committed the fucking crime. There was absolute intent. There was no fucking question about this. However, I think that you can say that, like, for example... You used to go to jail for like 20 years if you had like a joint of weed. Oh, well, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. True, but why is this the fucking time? Both things can be true simultaneously. Yeah, it shouldn't be illegal. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
It deserves. I don't think it has to go this far. Gary Bowser wasn't even a leading figure in the operation, and yet he's being punished like he was the head honcho of all this. Most people knew him as Gary OPA, the operator of Max Console, a website that regularly reviewed Team Executor hardware and other hacking tools.
The reason why they probably couldn't get the other guys is because they're in countries that they're not going to get anything out of them. It's like some guy lives in El Salvador and he's pirating video games from Nintendo. What the fuck do you think Nintendo's going to do about this? Nothing.
Not to mention, financially, Bowser's role was also rather limited. Again, paid only $500 to $1,000 a month. It's not a whole lot of money that Bowser specifically was profiting, and yet they're treating this guy like he represents the whole organization that profited millions off of this whole operation when he was just a small cog in this large machine. If Nintendo wants to send a message... they certainly did. This is a headline that's been spreading, and no doubt hackers are aware that there's legal precedent for fining someone $12 million and, you know.
To be fair, what you have to understand with the legal system in America is that, let me think of a way to put this. It's like, we've had one lawsuit, yes, but what about second lawsuit? What about restitution? What about settlement? What about third lawsuit? What about small claims court? Like, this is an industry, okay? So, yes, you're absolutely right that the first judgment against him was $10 million, but he can go to court again and have that changed. And then there's another fucking lawyer and a judge and a bunch of people at the court that they all get paid whenever that happens. And then after that, there's going to be another countersuit probably. And then you do another one. There's the appeals. And then, oh, wow. Well, now we have to go about, yeah, this is a fucking business, okay? So keep that in mind. Yeah, it comes in mega pints. I'm getting one. Yeah, this guy's about to.
Seeing hackers having to pay that for the rest of their lives. And so maybe this will make a lot of hackers just a lot more nervous about engaging in these kinds of illegal activities, or they are
No, it'll just make them it'll make them not operate out of Canada. It was stupid for him to do that.
Profiting off of these kinds of hacks and devices. But when the message itself is this viscerally severe, it also kind of makes you look like a bad guy as well. Like, it's going to make people more sympathetic toward.
I don't think Nintendo has any fault in this at all. Nintendo does not control. Nintendo is like for example, you don't let the people that are that like are you commit the crime against this person. Like, let's say you kill somebody, okay? And you don't let the person, like the person's family of the guy you killed or girl you killed, you don't let them make the judgment against what's going to happen to you, because everybody knows what that judgment's going to be. It's up to the court to decide that, because they're supposed to be unbiased. They're supposed to be able to make the right decisions in these situations. So it's like, wow, what a surprise. Nintendo is looking for a very, like they're looking to punish somebody who wronged them. Oh, wow. Who could have possibly fucking guessed this? No shit, but you let them do it. See, it's naive to think Nintendo didn't want this kind of ruling. I think they absolutely wanted this kind of ruling. They absolutely did. They wanted this so much. But so what? Who gives a fuck what they want? It's not the government's responsibility to do what Nintendo wants. It's the government's responsibility, and their share blame. I completely disagree. I think blame is only given to the people who have the power to change things. And yes, you're right. They acted in a bad way, and it's not good. But they don't have any power in this situation. The government has all the power, not Nintendo. The government is making him pay this, not Nintendo.
Is a criminal because the punishment does not fit the crime. Yes, he did something stupid, but does he really deserve this? Yeah, there you have it, folks. That's kind of the story, and this is what Gary Bowser is currently facing. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on this whole story. Do you think Nintendo's being too severe with their punishment, or do you think Nintendo is justified in fining this man $14.5 million and making him pay for, the rest of what time he has left on this earth? To be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
All right. Let me link you guys the video. I think that's about it's about what I think. I'd argue that rules are heavily influenced by corporations. That's bad. That's definitely bad. And you know what? You're totally right. You're totally right. And the truth is, though, that the jury isn't being influenced by these decisions. The judge can just say no, but they didn't. And they're the ones who actually hold the power here. And this has been a very, like, I know people don't like this opinion that I have, but I have a very black pill view of the world. I think that everybody will always advocate for the thing that is beneficial to them. And you need apparatuses in place to put limits on those advocacy. You need things that are going to weigh that down and counterbalance that. Because I don't think that it's fair for you to expect people to not try to get as much stuff as they want. Because it'll just never happen. Because people are greedy, they're selfish, they're vindictive, they're vengeful, and they're bad. But a system can transcend the human condition. And that's why I hold it to a higher standard. And that's why I don't hold Nintendo to any sort of a high standard, because they're simply trying to get what's best for them. This guy's trying to get what's best for him. It's the government, it's the court's decision on what that's going to be. System can be unjust and biased. It can be, but a system can also be fair. And a system can be a lot more fair than a person. And I think that we probably have one of those best systems here now. Isn't it good that we have this system and not, somebody saw you talking to somebody else and they think that other person is a communist, so now you lose your job? Or how about before that, whenever somebody saw you talking to somebody else and that person was a witch, so now you're on fire? Or how about before that, whenever somebody saw you talking to somebody else and they thought that person was against the church, so now, well, again, you're on fire? This is what happens. So I'm very glad to be living in a place where you do have an appeals process. You do have these things, because they're certainly a lot better than what we've had before. It is. Judge and jury still have to follow the rules unless otherwise they get overturned 9 out of 10. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. It just depends. And also, then, it calls into question, why does the rule exist? I mean, I'm not blaming it on that individual judge or that individual jury. Yeah, you're right. There was a rule that's in a book that was written there by somebody else. Probably that person's not even alive anymore. So yeah. Would you say you're a misanthrope? No, I have a very, as I said, I have a very black pill view on the world. I think that people will always do what's beneficial for them, and to hold that against them is naive. I think that you should only look at change systematically. You should never expect a person to transcend their own individual selfish desires. And every time that you do, you are just asking for disappointment, frustration, anger, and sadness. It is a very cynical view on the world, and it's been reinforced by basically every single thing that ever has happened. So yeah. That's what I think. The speech again, really? Yeah, I think it's very fair. And again, this is the same outlook that I had on, the gambling stuff on Twitch, for example, or the Fansly stuff. You can never fault somebody for doing something that's good for them. It's naive, and it's pointless. So if this isn't fair, how come the government gets to take 20 to 30% of my income? Because if they didn't, then there'd be somebody that showed up at your house with a gun that kills you, burns your house down after they steal everything out of it, and then that's it. Thank God the government is taking some of your money to pay people to prevent that from happening. Because in the places where they don't have any fucking government, any police, that's what happens. I mean, that's just, why wouldn't, think about it. If you could just go to somebody's house and just burn it down and just take all their stuff, that'd be a whole lot easier than working for it, right? Well, guess what happens? In all the places where you can do that, everything always everything always escalates to that. Every single time. Yeah, there we go. They'd die on my doorstep? No, they wouldn't, man. I know you might think you're Chris Kyle, but number one, Chris Kyle's fucking dead. Number two, there'd be like 50 dudes. Like, this isn't an anime. You just, like, you don't have a chance. Name places where you can do that? Africa. They have warlords that just go around like Joseph Kony. Remember him? Kony 2012? Yeah, if there were police, they would have arrested Joseph Kony. Yeah, a lot of third world countries are like this. Why would somebody not come to your house and take all your stuff? Why would this not happen? Morality? Well, what if somebody decides that they have a different type of morality? What if their morality isn't the same as yours? And based off of their morality, they're entitled to your stuff. Because their magic god in the sky has decided that all of his followers are right and just for having all of the stuff in the world, and anybody who is not a follower of this magic god just doesn't deserve anything, and in fact, they actually deserve to die. POV, all of history. Yes, I'm sorry, but if you think that I'm wrong, I would like to submit as evidence the entire human history.